Welcome into Extreme Radio, everybody, presented by GracePointe Healthcare. Go to GracePointeHealthcare.com, request your appointment online, mention you're with 8-Man Extreme, you get $20 off your new patient office visit fee. GracePointe Healthcare, modern medicine the old-fashioned way. Spencer Thompson and Isaiah Austin, we are 6 days away from the MTAC Championship Consolation Game. It's hard to believe we have 6 days until the end of the 2018 8-man football season. We've got the All-Star game, of course, but regular MTAC season almost over. Time to go through the recap of the scores. We don't have a helmet schedule this time because of the playoffs, but we'll start with the semi from White House. Christian Community hosted Lancaster Christian, got the win 50-26, and it was 22-6 at the half. We'll go with James on this one since you and I were on call. It was 22-6 at that, but Christian Community managed to take control of the game going into the second half. And Lancaster fought a little bit back and tried to get some scores up, but good on Christian Community to get the win as the #1 seed.
Yeah, we've known all season that if Christian Community can dictate the tempo, they're going to be fine. In games like against the Tennessee Heat earlier in the season, they did struggle, but it was because they weren't able to maintain tempo. When they maintain tempo, they're a hard team to beat, and that's what they did on on Friday night. Yep.
And let me throw this in here too. And let me throw this in there too. A massive turning point in the game was in the first quarter, I believe it was. Maybe the second quarter, but I think it was the first. I believe it was 14-6. And Lancaster was driving, and Bragg threw an interception across the middle that was picked off by Brooks Pugh, who almost took it back for a touchdown. He got chased down at the 5, and then Christian Community ended up punching it in anyway. So that was a massive 6-point turnaround, because to take that touchdown away from tying it up and instead turn around and make it a 2-score game again, that was huge for CCS, and that was kind of the turning point of the game. Obviously Jacob Gurley had a good game, and there were different guys who contributed in little parts, but really Matt Bowden, who's been dominant all year, he was not able to do what he's done all year. And that's kind of the thread between Christian Community and Webb. They were both able to shut down Matt Bowden for the most part. And, that's something that really speaks to both of these defenses, and it makes you wonder about how the rushing attacks for each team is going to do, because while both teams' rushing attacks are good, that rushing defense is right up there, neck to neck. So that's really going to be an interesting part to watch Saturday. But no, that game was a great game for Christian Community. Lancaster being in their first playoff in their first year of playing 8-man and MTAC. That's a huge accomplishment for them, and they've got some seniors they're going to lose, but they've got a lot of young guys who are just going to step up. Guys like Devin Hargrove, who was kind of quiet Friday night, he's going to be able to show up and make himself known. And so, they've got different pieces that are going to show up. But then for Christian Community, man, I mean, they're going to have 11 seniors next year, and they've got still got a whole bunch of freshmen and sophomores in the program. But to have that many juniors coming up after a senior class of last year and then a senior class of this year, it's just impressive, and it speaks to how important it is to having a JV program and having a farm system where you can get guys in at a young age, teach them your system, teach them how you do things, and by the time they get up into high school as sophomores and juniors, they're already producing at a crazy rate.
And Christian Community heading to the MTAC Championship for the second year in a row. Now we head down to the Webb School hosting the Tennessee Heat. Isaiah, you and Cole had the chance to call that game. 40-0, a running clock from, I believe, 11 minutes in the third quarter. And obviously James dropped the ball on this prediction. He picked the upset, and the Webb School managed to get it done. But it just shows more of, Webb went undefeated on the season for a reason. They did not come to mess around. They are in the MTAC Championship again, and they were not going to mess around and not have something occur like last year where South Haven managed to pull the upset on them down in Bell Buckle. So good on the Webb School, and they're headed to the championship first time since 2016.
Yeah, and kudos to Ryan Scott, the coach of the Tennessee Heat, for really turning this around, getting them to the second seed. Although it didn't go their way in the playoffs, they still had a strong season. A guy like Micah DeGrood stepped up the whole season, 77 tackles, and their quarterback in Goolsby just shy of 1,000 yards passing. A lot of guys stepped up this year. On the flip side, Webb, they dominated the first half. Their quarterback, Avante Harris, with 360 total yards and 4 touchdowns in the first half. 3 receivers really stuck out. 3 receivers with touchdowns, including Henry Moore with 2 and Jenkins with an interception, all happening in the first half. So this was a dominant performance for the Webb School, pulling it out 40-0 in just 2.5 quarters.
Well, and I think the most impressive thing for me from Webb was how quickly they bounced back from mistakes. I mean, they fumbled the opening kickoff. They had a couple other fumbles throughout the game, and immediately their defense just jumped on it and took back over and handled their business. And so that's impressive. You know, you look at the Heat, guys like Carter Sutton, who's got 12 sacks on the year. They've got youth, and we've always talked about that youth. But for Webb, it's their youth, but they're playing right now. They're playing like upperclassmen. And so that the way that they've been able to step up, we've talked about Harris all year. We've talked about Frey for the last 3 years. And then now Onade, Jordan Jenkins is someone who's come up. And, you know, but I think the X factor was that line Friday night. And the Heat still we're working on that line situation. And Webb's already got that line solidified. 3 seniors, actually 4 seniors technically on that line. So they've got depth and they've got experience there.
They do indeed. And again, Webb heading to the MTAC Championship for the first time since 2016. James and I were down in Fayetteville yesterday for the MTAC Bowl game between the Warriors of Bowling Green Christian Academy and the Knights of Riverside Christian Academy. A really great afternoon matinee game for a fundraiser for Creasy as he is fighting leukemia down in Huntsville. But Bowling Green Christian Academy got their first bowl game win, their first playoff win in franchise history, 52-28. The high school app saying 22 on there was 52-28. But Isaiah, you know, you look at that, that's their 7th win for the Bowling Green Warriors, the most wins they've had on any of their season. It just shows how Bowling Green is continuing to go up in their program from when they started to where they are now. They've got a bowl win, potentially even poised to go to the playoffs next year, either as a number 2 or number 1 seed. But Bowling Green just continuing to go up for their football program.
Yeah, and I remember playing Bowling Green my sophomore year, and Spencer, I'll say they have come a long way, especially guys like John Stock and Jake Rebelski had to step up for their teams respectively. John Stock, 14 carries for 245 yards and 3 touchdowns on the ground, along with 8 tackles on the defensive side of the ball. Rebelski with 252 through the air and 3 touchdowns. Both guys stepping up big time. Gage Holman and John Trahan were shut down for their teams, and those guys stepped up and really, really made it a good ball game. And I know Riverside didn't pull out the win, but I'm sure Creasy would be proud of the effort to the last whistle that they put in.
And let me throw this in there too. The score of the game did not indicate the game. You look at 52-28 and it's like, wow, it must have gotten ugly. It was 30-28 with 7 minutes left in the game. Riverside scored. It was Jake Rubelski hitting Sammy Morris for 31 yards and a touchdown. And then they went for the 2-point conversion, didn't get it. And 20 seconds later, John Stock, 70-yard touchdown. And that was one where that was a speed touchdown. He got to the secondary. They opened up a hole big enough for a stock truck, and bam, he was gone. And that kind of put the game on ice. But I mentioned Sammy Morris, and this is somebody we didn't see throughout the whole first part of the year. 3 catches, 181 yards, and guess what? All 3 catches were for touchdowns. This guy is the definition of what's the word I'm looking for? He's the definition of efficient. You make a catch, it's a touchdown. Bam, bam, bam. You can't ask for anything better. You mentioned Gage Holman. Check out Riley Davis. 3 catches for 122 yards and a touchdown. But if you look closely, the 77 yards of that was 1 touchdown. So take that away. 2 catches, 50 yards, no touchdowns. He was shut down by who? Sammy Morris. And Michael Whidden also made some plays in there last night. But Morris was able to just bat several balls away. Michael Black was kind of quiet. He's made some noise throughout the year. He didn't do as much last night. Neither did Crutch Rizel. Raymond Hunt didn't make a lot of noise. Cam B had a touchdown, really nice touchdown pass to end the first half, and that kind of pushed Bowling Green ahead, made it a 22-14 game because Bowling Green jumped out to a 14-0 lead. Riverside came back, and that touchdown right there, that set the tone for that second half. But a fantastic ball game, a really great ball game, and like you said, Spencer, a great fundraiser for Coach Creasy. We're all thinking about him, praying for him. Of course, we got our Creasy Strong shirts yesterday, and I encourage you to go get one. You can check out the Riverside Twitter or Facebook for more details how you can order one. But a fantastic time. I love going down to Riverside and interacting with everyone down there. But a great end of the year for both of those teams. And again, I can't say it enough. A huge shout out to Bowling Green and Don Brown and the MTAC for making that event about Coach Creasy and redirecting what could have been a different type of event and changing it to where the focus was really where it should be, and that's on a fantastic guy that no one has anything negative to say about.
Yeah, congratulations to Bowling Green and all of them. Again, just to reflect what you said, even with the result, of course, focusing on Coach Creasy and hoping for him to have a swift and easy recovery as he fights leukemia. All right, our guests in studio are going to go ahead and get their mics turned on while they're getting that handled. We do want to address next Sunday. We will be not next Sunday. Tomorrow, Monday, we will be announcing the All-Star alumni, captains, and coaches for the 2018 Extreme All-Star Game. That'll go out on social media. Next Tuesday, we will have the mock draft for the show announcing who all is going to the All-Star Game. So that will be addressed tomorrow instead of today on our social media, and we are extremely excited for that. All right.
And Spencer, in terms of the All-Star Game, what's happening next Sunday?
Next Sunday is our All-Star show.
It's our coin toss. Yeah, we're going to have the coin toss to determine who gets the first overall pick. You're not going to want to miss that.
Yeah, we're excited for that. We're ready to see how that one goes down. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I believe the first guest we've had in studio this year, to my knowledge, and it's really fantastic. We're fortunate enough to have this happen last year for the championship and managed to have it this year. We have in studio the head coaches of the teams appearing in the MTAC Football Championship this year. We have Coach Jordan Flanders from Christian Community and Jeff Murphy from the Webb School. And we also have Emmanuel Nade and Jackson Dotterer from the Webb School. Guys, first, before we get into the questions, I want to say thank you so much for taking the drive over here to the show. We appreciate you being in studio, and best of luck to you, to all of you guys in the championship on Saturday. We're really, really looking forward to it. So, most of the questions we have here are kind of a roundtable discussion. We'll kind of alternate between going directions. We'll start with Coach Flanders, then go around here to Dotterer, and then Nade, then Murphy. So this first one, how does it feel? Obviously, for CCS, you guys, this is your second year in a row being in this position, and in your program, you've only missed the playoffs once. How does the feeling this year feel to get a playoff or get to the MTAC Championship, but especially the second year in your history to go on an undefeated season? How does that feel for you and your organization?
Well, let me first say, praying for Coach Creasy. It's unfortunate what he's going through right now, but he's one of the best Christian men I know, just where his stance is on things and the ministry that he has. As far as just being here second year in a row, I mean, it's a good thing, but 9-0 was nice that Friday night, but at this point it doesn't matter a whole lot. Saturday's what we have left, so we're just hoping that maybe we've learned enough to try to have a better shot at competing and getting the job done.
And how does it feel for you, Jackson? Because you've been with CCS for a good amount of time with their football program. How much more impactful is this for you in your senior year to potentially get an MTAC championship?
I'm so grateful to be here again. Me and my teammates have worked very hard to be here. I just want to make sure we take care of business this time and hopefully get that W.
Yeah, hopefully you guys do as well. And Nade, you've been with Webb for a while as well. How does it feel, especially for you as one of the running backs on Webb's offense? How does it feel for you to be in the MTAC championship?
I think it was about time. It's been 2 years since we went back to state, and we got co-state. And I think this year we want to win it all. Brandon, Shamar Frey, all of them, all the boys that played that state game, we all want to win it this year.
Now, for you, Coach Murphy, you've been on the assistant coaching staff for several years with Webb, but now that you're as a head coach for him, you're in your first MTAC championship as a head coach. How does that feel for you?
It feels good. I mean, obviously, you set goals at the beginning of the season, and the ultimate goal is to get to the championship and ultimately win a championship. So it's definitely a good feeling. But when you got great kids that come in and work hard every single day and buy into what you're doing, it's just a testament to them.
So both of you guys had to play in the semifinals to get here. At least for you, Coach Murphy, you guys faced off against the Tennessee Heat, who by several ways they got into the playoffs. What was the toughest challenge you guys faced? I know the score shows 40-0. Someone could look at that and say it was a blowout. But what was the toughest challenge you faced against the Tennessee Heat on Friday night?
Yeah, I mean, definitely the score doesn't show the type of team that the Heat are, but they're a good team, and they never gave up. They fought the whole way, all the way until 0 seconds was on the clock. They just fought every play, every down, and just trying to will our team through the fight that they had. That was probably the toughest challenge.
What about you, Emmanuel? Your toughest challenge?
I think it was just the whole team finding the tempo on defense, and I think once we got that tempo and stopped the run game and all that, I think we did a pretty good job.
Jackson?
I'd say Friday night the weather was probably the hardest with rain and cold. Ball security with all that was probably the hardest part.
Coach?
Well, facing Lancaster, they run a lot of different plays and combinations on you. So just trying to make sure we had the right coverage or right formation to battle each set that they may have thrown at us. That was tough, and definitely trying to stay warm. Friday night was another task. But they're a really young team. They'll definitely be there again, probably pretty often the next couple of years.
Yeah, I know we were talking pre-show about how it wasn't as cold as the semifinal last year, but it still had its temperatures. Luckily we were in the press box. We didn't have as much to deal with that with the rain there, but at least it wasn't as bad as last year. Now you've been with the Colts football program essentially since you graduated from Christian Community, Coach, and you've been on the coach staff involved one way or another for many years. How is your experience on, not just the football side, but with the organization as a whole? How has your experience been with Christian Community over the years for, kind of that evolution you've had as a player going up to the coaching role?
Well, I'm just thankful, Pastor Bob Cook, he's the pastor of GracePointe Church, and Christian Community is a ministry off of that church. And so I'm thankful for the vision that he had, and then my sophomore year, we started the football program there at CCS. And so, it has evolved quite a bit. I think if you want to have a successful program, it takes an entire administration. It takes a coaching staff. It takes a lot of behind-the-scenes people. So I think you're talking about evolving, I just think over the last few years we've been able to kind of grow that, with our JV program, Booster Club, getting more coaching in that's on staff at the school. So just trying to grow the program from where we started. It's definitely come a long way. Now,
Jackson, you've been with CCS, as I mentioned. You've been in the school system for a lot of years. What has been your best experience, football? As a student there, what's been your best experience with the program?
The environment there, it's a great Christian environment. The coaches know what they're talking about. They love us as players and as men. They're always trying to teach us new lessons, and I couldn't ask for a better program to be under.
Now, Emmanuel, do you live on campus for Webb? Because I know they're boarding school. Do you live on campus for?
No, I'm a day student.
Okay, you're a day student. Well, regardless of that, I know with boarding schools they have good environments, a different experience than traditional school. But what's been your best experience with Webb over the years?
Honestly, just seeing all the guys at school, and then after long days of work at school, we just go onto the football field and let everything out during practice. And I honestly think the relationship between the guys and the coaches have really grown a lot this year.
And Coach Murphy, you've been with them for several years under coordination on different sides of football and such. What about you? Your best experience?
I think just being with the kids every single day, and I'm sure Coach can attest to this. When you spend the majority of your time with these kids, you come to care about them a lot. I mean, most of these kids I see more than my wife and kids at times. So, but just that building those relationships, and yeah, we want our kids to be great football players, but ultimately we want them to be great men. and just being a mentor for those guys is for me the best part of it.
Now, to go more specific on that question, what would you say this season is your most memorable moment? Like, someone made a big play or a coach thing that, like a play you called that actually works. What would be your most memorable moment on the season thus far?
Most memorable moment, I don't really have one that sticks out, but it's just a situation that we come up with. We have a handful of kids that are from out of the country, and we have 3 kids that are from Germany that have never played a down in football, started from the beginning, and over the season we were trying to get them more and more time. And when those guys finally get in, to see them actually understand football and to make plays and contribute is probably my favorite thing. And the players get so excited for those kids when they go in and make a tackle or break up a pass. So anytime we can get those guys in and they can contribute, just the joy on their faces making plays is awesome.
Yeah, that's what we've said many times. Not just for you guys, but like St. Andrews, Swanee, because both of them were boarding schools. Just to have, I think there was one guy from Swanee last year who was a transfer-in student. I want to say I don't remember if it was Malaysia or if it was some country around the Southeast Asia that had never played football either. And for him to get experience and such, so that's a great thing to see, especially for people who haven't played the game of football yet. To get that exposure has been fantastic. What about you, Emmanuel? Your most memorable moment this season?
At the start of the season, when we played South Haven, we put in 8th grader, big man Drew, and he's like a little short kid, like 4 feet probably, and he got out there, got the ball, and started running as hard as he could. But yeah, that was probably the funniest part.
Jackson?
I'd have to say homecoming night. I've never seen that many people in the stands supporting us. It was a great night, and at the end of the night, they had the gender reveal for Coach Flanders' baby, and with fireworks, and it was just an emotional, great time, and I will never forget that night.
That's fantastic. What about you, Coach?
Well, yeah, specific moment, Coach is right. It's hard to pick out a specific moment, but ball games will come and go, but just the time you get to spend, seniors, I kind of make it their responsibility senior year to help stripe the field, and so we get a lot of bonding moments out there, regardless of whether they want to be there or not. But that, and we have senior breakfasts on Friday morning, so getting to kind of hear how their mind's working and their transition of knowing that high school's coming into an end, the next phase of their life starting, and getting to be a part of that. That's probably been the best moment so far.
Yeah, you mentioned breakfast on Friday morning. We say that on Instagram all the time. I think that's great what you guys do with your seniors this Friday morning. Have breakfast, either Cracker Barrel or wherever it is. But that perfectly goes to my next question because especially for an undefeated coach, I'm sure there's I know that in sports in general there are superstitions and there's some certain rituals and such that happen. So what is the typical routine for Coach Jordan Flanders on game day?
Well,
not too many secrets revealed, of course.
Yeah, yeah. You're already revealing our play secrets over here with tempo. But no, I typically the last couple years, I have the seniors over to my house for breakfast. But having a pregnant wife, not being sure if she's going to feel well or not, for that particular time, we've kind of gone out to a couple different spots this year. So, of course, we have our senior breakfast, and then a lot of times we'll have football players we go ahead and send, and they'll greet kids coming into school, early often. But you got that, and then it's I don't know, I guess just trying to figure out your first play, or, a lot of times I'll try to have it before Friday, but sometimes I'm just not sure about what I want to run to start the game. But, we try to – I like a regimen, so, when 4 o'clock hits, that's when Friday night officially starts for us. So we have a whole sequence of things. But probably the most peculiar one is I'll close this out, we'll go out to the field, but I can't go out there unless I brush my teeth right before I've gone out. So I know
Really?
that's, a weird thing, but, it's just it's like I'm preparing to go out for,
You got to give less reason for the referee to be upset if you're protesting
exactly.
a call.
They're more likely to let you talk to them if you.
It smells minty fresh, right?
Yeah, if you're minty fresh there.
That's awesome. All right, what about you, Jackson?
I don't have any rituals or anything, but we have a senior breakfast in the morning. I try to stay hydrated all day, eat some good food, get my mind focused, get my heart right with God, and just get my players ready to go.
Awesome. Emmanuel?
Yeah, after Friday we just have our own schedule. All the players get together and then we wait for the coaches and just do our thing, get ready for the game.
You got any special rituals, Coach, or your typical routine?
Not really. I'm not a teacher on campus, so I have to go to work. Friday before the game, and then we do a pregame meal in our cafeteria with all the players, make sure they are actually eating something, because a lot of them wouldn't if we didn't do that. So we do that, and then we go back in the locker room, go over some things, and just make sure we're ready to go by 7 o'clock.
Now this is specifically for the senior players here for Emmanuel and Jackson. So we'll start with Emmanuel. Obviously, we've seen several players go up to the Division III, 2, and 1 level for football afterwards, going from 8-man to 11-man, and we've seen different players go to different places on mission trips and such after high school, all of them noble. Do you have any specific plans yet for after high school once you graduate from Webb? Do you have any plans that you're formulating yet?
Yeah, I was just intending to go to Ole Miss and study business. So, yeah, that's pretty much all I have in mind.
That's awesome. What about you, Jackson?
I don't have any plans yet. I'm trying to maybe play football at the next level, see what happens with that, walk on somewhere, see if I can get some scholarships. Other than that, I'm not really sure.
That's fantastic. Now, this is one of the questions we always enjoy doing because it really tests. Now, the interesting thing is you guys just met, like Coach Flanders, remember, you guys just met and have not had the chance to meet each other. So what is one good thing you could say about your opponent in the championship coming up this weekend? Even though you just met each other, I'm sure you guys have seen some film and watched some stuff, but we'll start with you, Coach Flanders. What's one good thing you could say about Webb?
Well, I mean, looks like they're pretty solid at every phase of the game. They've you talked about that quarterback had 300-something yards in the first half. I imagine that's been pretty consistent for their season as a whole. So I would say it'd probably be tougher to find something bad to say about their game at this point if you look at their season and where they're at. So just overall game and how they really don't have any weaknesses right now.
Jackson?
From what I know, they have a lot of athletes on their team, and they're really good at passing, and the receivers are really well. Just looking forward to the game Saturday.
Anything about CCS, Emmanuel?
It's pretty much the same thing. I know they got some athletes in a big old line too, so we're just ready to play them.
Coach Murphy?
I would just say, you can tell. We watched a little bit of film when you guys were streaming the game. They're a very well coached team, and that's a testament to the coach. And you can tell by his player talking and him talking. Their faith always comes first, and that's a huge testament from all the way from the top to the bottom. So they're a great team.
All right, well, guys, we really do appreciate all four of you coming in studio today, as we said at the top, and it's always great to see the programs evolve and such. Whatever plans you have for after, at least for the players, whatever plans you have for graduation and afterwards, we hope you guys do the best, and best of luck this Saturday in the MTAC Championship. We're looking forward to it. Now comes the point where we did this last year, where we predict the consolation and championship.
No. Let me predict it before the game, please. Get James to do it. He can't get hit.
Trent did this last year. Trent handled this last year. He did it in studio. So it's time to predict the games. We'll start out with the consolation game. So we've got Lancaster facing off against the Tennessee Heat, and both of these guys. They essentially took blowout losses in the playoffs, and they're looking for at least a third-place title because, obviously people are still up in the air about whether you hold the consolation game or whether you don't, but at least for Lancaster and the Heat, both of the coaching staffs have expressed they're ready to play another game. They are ready to play this last game, give it their all on Saturday. It could very much go either way in this one because both sides have stars on both sides of the ball, but Lancaster especially, they seem to give more fight in the semi than the Heat did, but that can be said on the other side. It seemed like Heat maybe gave more fight than Lancaster did against Webb, but it's going to be a really interesting consolation game on Saturday.
Yeah, and for the Tennessee Heat, it was 40-0, but that was only 25 minutes into the game. So if that clock would have kept running, I don't know what the score would have been. So this Heat team is demolished. They're beaten down. And this Lancaster team, although they did take a pretty decent loss, again, to the number one ranked team in the nation right now, they took a respectable loss. And for people like they got Matt Bowden, Deuce Bragg as a very accurate quarterback. They got Gurley at receiver. They got some threats, and I think that Lancaster is going to pull this one out easily. I got 44-8.
44-8 Lancaster over the Heat. I have a feeling James is going to be on the Heat train, but let's see.
He always says exactly the opposite of what I say.
Yeah, exactly. All right,
44-8 Heat.
James, who you got?
Today is not going to be any different. Listen, the Heat are not demolished. They got beat by a darn good football team. They're not demolished. They had a little bit of a step back. They had a little bit of a hiccup, but they're going to be just fine. Listen, Brandon Goolsby this year, you can say what you want about him. Still has 850 passing yards, still has 12 touchdowns. The guy, if he's on, then that's the key. If he's on, he's on. He's going to be okay. Preston Sloan, one of the most dangerous men in the league. If he can have a good game, then they'll be all right. Kelton Copeland is a good second punch. Micah DeGrood and Carter Sutton, Chris Savely. Last time these two teams played, it was 26-14, and it was a good ball game. And I expect the same this time. This Heat defense, if they could do what they have to do. Another part of it we saw against Tennessee School for the Deaf, Ty Whitaker. If they could get him in the backfield and get him some carries, he'll help them as well. So I'm calling it for a Heat win here. I don't predict scores, but I'm calling for a Heat win.
Well, Matt Bowden had 1,986 total yards and 29 touchdowns on the season. So I would take him over any running back combined on the Heat. Also, Deuce Bragg, a 8th grader, got half of Goolsby's entire season in passing yards in one game against a good team, over 400.
Wait, he got him against what team?
Let me double check. I'll get back to you.
All right. Okay. Because
It's
it better not be
preps. I got it.
It better not be a one or two team.
I'll double check.
You tell me this. Yes, Lancaster is 7-1, but they played in the South, where you have a no-loss Franklin Classical, a 3-win Franklin Christian. You've got a 2-win St. Andrews Swanee, and this is not downing any of these teams, but you had teams who had down years. You have Riverside Christian with 3 wins, and all these teams are good, but they're having down years. So you tell me how 4 of those wins equal up to Heat. The Heat took a few more losses, but they played Webb, they played Lancaster, they played Christian Community, they played the 3 best teams who are ranked in the top 25 in the nation. They've got it. They'll be all right. Heat win.
Anything else, Isaiah?
I just don't think the South is as weak as you think they are, James. I think we'd have a better game with St. Andrews Swanee or Franklin Christian in that consolation game.
You tell me this: who's played on that 80-by-40 field more, Lancaster or the Heat?
Tennessee Heat, but who's won more games in the past 3 or 4 seasons?
Who played more? Wait, we're comparing who won.
Who's won more 8-man games in the past 3 years?
If you
Lancaster.
Well, no, that's this season. You can't go 2 years back, Lancaster. You can't do that. But here's the thing: Heat have more experience on that 80-by-40 field. Coach Scott is going to know what it takes to adjust. I love Coach Bragg. Coach Scott's going to know what needs to happen to adjust. So there you go.
Okay, James. So would you consider Riverside as a respectable opponent?
Absolutely. I'm
Deuce
not saying
406 passing yards.
He had what?
He had 406 passing yards and 2
Deuce
touchdowns.
Bragg, an 8th grader.
Okay, so what were Goolsby's stats against Riverside?
Let me check up on that.
That's what the only stat that matters.
You got to pull up the stats for both of
them.
them.
That's the only thing that matters.
Prepared. Okay, well, I think we're going on about the consolation game. Isaiah's trying to prolong.
Yeah, I'm trying to.
Okay,
avoid
it's
this.
time, Isaiah.
Yeah,
it's time. The MTAC Championship, Christian Community and the Webb School. Both teams, not a single loss. Both teams, to my knowledge, they have not had a run. They have not been faced against a running clock this season. They've dealt almost all of their games, except maybe 1 or 2. They have dealt running clocks to their opponents, and just the powerhouses on both sides of the ball. I don't know what's going to come down to in this. So, like I was talking about you. I was talking to you about this, or I was actually talking to James about this on the way to the bowl game after the matchups are set. Like usually, I have an idea of which way a game is going to go. I don't tell you guys because I stay neutral, but I have an idea of which way the game's going to go. This one, I have no clue. I have absolutely no clue how this championship is going to go. I really don't. That's why I leave it to you and James on this.
That's what you got us for.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And I agree with you, and that's why I'm biting my tongue a little bit. Like I don't want to go one way or the other because it's so hard to go one way or the other. But so it's kind of interesting.
Okay, do you want me to go first?
Yes.
Okay. Listen, I'm used to being the villain. I'm used to being called the quote-unquote homer. That's fine. I'm going to lay it out here. Christian Community, 23 was won 23 out of 24 games. Rally has thrown 2 interceptions, 3 interceptions this year, or maybe combined, or maybe 3. I'm off of my stats a little bit, but you know, and of course you can't take Webb, last year and coming in. But a lot of those guys on the Webb team last year were on this team last year. A lot of those guys from Webb were on that blowout, on that team that got blown out by South Haven and Franklin Christian. So obviously they're going to have that ammunition coming in. If you want to see something for Webb, look at this. Common opponents. Webb's allowed 49 points. That's South Haven Heat, Riverside, FCA, FCS, 49 points. CCS, 86 points. And I don't know, in terms of if they got a running clock and they just kind of let their foot off the gas or tap the brake, whatever, that's fine. But stats are stats, 49, 86. But again, you go back to Christian Community. I know that they tried to avoid this at all costs. And look, Tim Pettit said on the show last week, it was between May Flanders Field and Lagler Field. It was played at Lagler Field last year. Webb had a chance to play for the championship this year. CCS had a chance, and they're going to play for the championship on their home field. I think that does give a little bit of an advantage because they're used to the field. I'm calling CCS on this one. They're going to take the championship. They're going to go to nationals. They're going to take on Evangel Christian from Alabama, who's had a great year, and they're going to win nationals.
Mic drop. So
I absolutely hate ostracizing Coach Murphy and Scott Dorsett. I love you guys. That's my pick. And I've been wrong. Listen, I've been wrong on I've been wrong on 20 plus games this year. So take it for what it's worth.
All right, Isaiah. You said earlier that you and James always pick opposite. Is that going to happen here?
Well, let me tell you, Spencer. If we're bringing up stats here, which I really don't want to because, common opponent was weeks ago, but I see a CCS versus Heat that's 20-19 in the third quarter, and I see the Webb School going 2 weeks later and being up 52-7 at halftime. Look, that's just me bringing up stats, but I'm not going to use stats. I'm only using stats to disprove what he said.
Bring up the stats. Bring up the
stats. But, again, like these teams – there was so much mystery until last week we saw that Lancaster, a common opponent. There's been a lot of mystery around this game, but I think it's going to be whoever can dictate the tempo. Again, I'm a big believer in tempo. Okay, I will say that all day. Who can play 4 quarters and who's going to be able to adjust to the weather the best. It's going to be a freezing forecast. It's going to be on an 80-by-40 field. And really, James, I'm taking the Webb School 36-32.
Isaiah, who's dominated tempo this year?
The Webb School. They have never played a fourth quarter this entire season. That's tempo to me.
Okay, who leads their team in tackles?
Can I check up on that? I mean, is this
trivia? Go ahead. I mean, I'm gonna go ahead and tell you.
I know the answer to that. Their leader.
Okay, who leads CCS in tackles?
I'm not sure who leads CCS, but I know the leader.
His name is Avery freaking Harper. 69 tackles, 7 tackles for loss, 5.5 sacks. This dude can get in the backfield, and that's to go with the rest of that defensive line. And this isn't the first year that Harper's been dominant.
But you want to know why the Webb players have less flashy stats and why they're still at the same record? Because they can put so many guys in and get the same results. Their most tackle play, they have played. How many games are they at? How many games have y'all played?
It was like
8.
9.
Last was 9.
35 tackles is the leader on the team right now out of 8 games. 35 tackles.
So all that tells me is that they spread the tackles around.
All that tells me is they can put guys in for days and days and get the same production as they have all year. Never seen a fourth quarter. The starters don't see the fourth quarter, ever.
You mean like Jackson Dotterer with 58 tackles? And David West with 7 tackles for loss?
We could talk about stats all day, but at the end of the day,
And David West with 6 sacks.
stats, it doesn't say anything about individual stats. You need to look at team
Michael
stats as opposed to
Jones,
time on the field.
But who makes up the team? It's the individuals.
If
Micah
your
Jones,
team
3
gets
interceptions.
if your starters get 100 tackles as opposed to 300 tackles and you're getting the same results, I'm taking the team with the starters with 100 tackles because that means that they're winning games without the starters even seeing half the game.
But guess what that also means? That means that the starters that have the higher stats, that means they can do more throughout the course of the game and they're still winning.
But
That's
when
who
it gets
you
to
take in a
when it gets to
knockdown,
the
fight.
when it gets to the fourth quarter, you got to have guys that will go in and be productive, and that's what Webb has.
Oh, now
and
we're talking
CCS
about
has as well.
But guess what? When when you have guys who can get 20 tackles in the fourth quarter as opposed to 7 tackles in the fourth quarter, guess who's gonna win in a dogfight? It's gonna be the team that can get 20 tackles.
So would you rather have one guy that's going to get 20 tackles or both sides getting 10 tackles? You can't go either way in that situation.
I would rather have one guy that gets 20 tackles because guess what? If you got one guy that goes down with 10 tackles, guess what? You're left with 10 tackles.
But if you have
got a
one
guy
guy that drops with 20 tackles, you have no tackles.
I don't disagree. I don't agree with that. I think because guess what?
20
That
minus
gives you-
20
that
is
gives
0.
that gives somebody a chance to step up. I can't hear what they're saying.
20 minus 20 is 0.
Well, wow. That classical math is fantastic.
What are you bringing school education
Come on,
into this
if you-
for? What are you bringing education into this for, man?
I didn't say any school name. I said that classical education.
There's only one classical school in the MTAC.
Oh my!
But there are several classical schools in Tennessee.
Okay, well, there's the predictions. We're never going to agree on
Okay,
this.
there you go.
All right, it's divided.
Hey, listen. Something we agree on. This is going to be a heck of a ball game.
It will.
This
And-
is the best championship. The build up for this championship is the best since 2014. It's been coming all year, and it's coming down Saturday night, May Flanders Field. You don't want to miss it.
We could even have a better game than last year, and that's crazy.
Well, I mean, last year the build up for it, it was one of those things of we didn't know 100% what South Haven was capable of because we had seen their matchup against CCS earlier in the season, and we didn't know what they were capable of. That's what it is. But in this case, 2 undefeated teams, both #1 seeds, both blowout semis. That's why this game is going to be so amazing. And Isaiah, you and I are going to have the call. You're calling your first
Isaiah,
championship, buddy.
listen. If Webb has some quiet guys who are going to have to step up, and I say quiet in quotation marks. Elijah Fouch is going to have to step up. If he can be that extra part along with Bart Morton, if those two can step up and have a good game, that could be the turning factor.
Well, James, I'm going to have to tell you, if Henry Moore plays like he did on Friday, then this could be even more in Webb's advantage. He had 3 receptions.
Seriously, I give you 2 guys from Webb, and you can't give me 2 guys from CCS. Come on.
Oh, that's okay.
Okay, I'll give you right
Let me
now. I
think.
just mentioned him, Johnny Stapleton.
I would
and
no.
David
I will.
West.
I agree with you on Johnny, 100%.
What about David West?
I would go more with probably. Can you give me a minute?
You've been
Sure,
asking
go
that
ahead.
a lot today, man.
I'll give you all the minutes
Well, we're
you
going with
want.
we're going with a lot of stats.
Yeah, dude, we're throwing a lot of stats at this one because, hey, they got all their stats updated. That's the important thing.
Hey, listen. That's one of the top things I like about both. Put the stats out in the open. I said at the beginning of the year, put your stats out there and go win the ball games. That's all you got to do.
Yeah, both of them managed to do that. So I think we'll give Isaiah a
Kudos.
little bit to look up these stats here. But, yes, the consolation game at 2 p.m. on Saturday, the championship game at 6 p.m. on Saturday, both games. We will broadcast them, but you better come out to May Flanders Field. Is it 7? I could have. Oh, I guess it is 7 o'clock for the championship. Okay, they did change
So
that.
is it 2? Is it 2 and 7?
Yeah, it's 2. Okay, so yeah, just confirm that. One of the coaches could confirm that with me. The original email I got was 2 and 6, but it's at 2 and 7 apparently.
Even better. Even
better.
better. Prime time Saturday night football.
Yep, prime time Saturday night.
Who even needs to watch the SEC when you can watch the SEC of 8-man football?
Exactly.
Take that, Alabama.
I got my guy.
Oh, you got him?
Go ahead.
Yeah, Derek Jefferson.
Okay.
I think if Derek Jefferson is averaging 16.5 yards per carry, and about every 5th or 6th time he touches that ball, he scores. Including he's got a 90-yard touchdown run on the year. Dotterer is a starter, of course, but when he comes in, he's got to be productive, and they're going to have a great shot at this.
Hey, guess who's the one man in the league who could take David Adams' kicks that don't make it to the end zone back to the house 70 yards for a touchdown?
Shamar Frey.
Shamar Frey.
There
Yes,
we go.
sir.
We agree on one thing.
Okay,
guys
there you
disagree
go.
on that.
Hey, no, two things. Frey, and this is going to be a heck of a ball game.
It is going to be one of the best championship matchups we've seen in MTAC history, one of the best for sure. And Isaiah and I are going to have the call for that one on Saturday at 7. And the consolation game, I believe we're going to have James, and I'm not sure if we confirm the other guy who's calling it with him, but we'll have somebody on call for them for that consolation game at 2 p.m. Both matchups are going to be fantastic on Saturday. I can't wait to see them at May Flanders Field. Make sure you come out, but if for some reason you can't, then you can watch our stream broadcast on YouTube. Both games are going to be really fantastic on Saturday night. Well, that assuming that James doesn't have any more shameless self-promotions, I think that wraps.
I think we do. I think we do have a self-promotion outside of announcing the All-Star captains. And Spencer, it has to do with you.
What is that?
No, never mind. I guess we don't have the shameless promotion.
Yeah, I'm not sure what you're talking about then. I'm not sure what you're referring to on that one.
Fine, I'll do it. We mentioned at the top of the show next Sunday, All-Star game coin toss. Next Tuesday night, mock draft. And next Thursday, draft. Next Saturday, Extreme All-Star game. 3rd edition. We've got a lot of talent. We got the coaches locked in. It's going to be a good game.
Yeah, the All-Star game will be great for sure. But, of course, just as we said, consolation game and championship this Saturday at 2 o'clock and 7 p.m. live on our YouTube channel, but at May Flanders Field in White House, Tennessee. We're really excited to bring those games to you, ready to see one of the most competitive championships for the Middle Tennessee Athletic Conference through its 11-year history. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to Extreme Radio presented by GracePointe Healthcare. Go to GracePointeHealthcare.com and make sure to request your new patient office visit. If you mention you're from 8-Man Extreme, you get $20 off your new patient office visit fee. GracePointe Healthcare, modern medicine the old-fashioned way. For Isaiah Austin, James Shannon, all the hardworking men and women that make 8-Man Extreme successful in what it is today. I'm Spencer Thompson. We'll see you for the consolation and the championship game on Saturday.
See ya!